conceived purely from the will of the cosmic force, not which was a natural thing. The cosmic force willed it to happen. It was very natural from the cosmic force's perspective. But what these witches did, they manipulated the cosmic force into meeting their own desires, which is not something that is unnatural. So no, they are not the chosen one. They're not trying to replicate that. They're just showing that dark side users can manipulate the force into doing exactly what Palpatine said in episode 3 of the prequel trilogy.
Okay.
The Sith the path of the Sith leads some to I forget the exact line. It's something about the powers of the Sith. Some people believe are unnatural to life, and this could be something that explains what he means, because not only is this kind of when people started losing faith in the Jedi, because this timeline takes place right after the Nihil and all of that, which was the path of the hidden.
Yeah, because Acolyte's supposed to be before the Empire, before the Jedi, like before all of it, correct?
Yeah, it takes place 100 years before the Phantom Menace, which is right around the time that the Nihil were completely wiped out, which the Nihil were one of the worst things that ever happened to the Jedi. I mean, it was a religious group of Force users who splintered off from the path and became the Nihil. And when that happened, they terrorized the galaxy for almost 100 years. I mean, it might be more. If anybody's listening in the comments, if I'm wrong about that, please comment and let me know. But the point was that the Jedi are so controlling over what religions are practiced or what Force religions are practiced, because they're scared of another Nihil being brought to light. So that puts a lot of, in this series, we see a lot of distrust in the Jedi, basically not being so much as peacekeepers as they were in the early parts before episode 2 of the prequel trilogy, but more as like enforcers, kind of like enforcing their own agenda. Like it's okay for them to train Force sensitives as Jedi, but anybody else training them to be Force sensitive in another way is bad.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, it's kind of cool to see, what I think this show will do is set up how, oh God, what's his name? It'd be Darth Plagueis' master, whoever his master was. He was alive in this timeline.
Okay.
So, what I think it's going to do is set up how he basically learned the ways to eternal life, because Plagueis could keep himself from dying, and we never understood how, they never showed how he could do that. So hopefully that'll be elaborated in this timeline in this show, and then we can understand how, better how other stuff happened down the line, how Palpatine returned so damn quickly and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because, like me and you were talking earlier, I don't know what you would call it. It's not the prequel, it's they got the sequel trilogy. Wasn't all that great. It really wasn't. But
you talking about with the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith?
No.
Are you talking about you're talking about like Force Awakens and all that?
Yeah, that's the prequel. I think the prequels is the Phantom Menace, the Attack of the Clones,
and Revenge of the Sith. Yes.
Yeah, and then the sequel trilogy is Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and
the shit ones we don't like talking about.
Well, I mean, they are Star Wars, and they do have a lot of good aspects in them, and they do give a, when, hold on, let me back up. Some of them have good aspects in them. To be honest, if like going back to the Acolyte, I personally think it has some of the best fight choreography we've had since Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, the fight choreography with the wire works, we haven't seen much of that since the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. We don't see lightsaber fights like that no more.
Yeah.
Not even in Obi-Wan or Ahsoka do we actually see the quality of lightsaber combat that we saw in the prequel trilogy.
Yeah. There was only like a few good moments in Ahsoka where she was in the realm and she saw Anakin. That was pretty good, but other than that, everything else was just like it was pretty bland.
But see, like that goes back to why I say the sequel trilogies, there are some good aspects, because I hate The Last Jedi. I do, with a burning passion.
No, it's not great.
It's not. I hate it.
If you want to be honest, I think The Last Jedi is just like a complete copy of Empire Strikes Back, if you think about it.
It is, but at the same time, we're not comparing it to that, because that's an insult to the Empire Strikes Back.
No, it was Empire Strikes Back was way better. But just think about it. In the beginning of Last Jedi, the First Order figures out where their secret base is, just like in Empire Strikes Back in the beginning, where the Empire figures out where their base is.
True. Like I said, it's terrible. However, the ending with Luke projecting himself across the galaxy to face Kylo.
Is that even possible?
It is in the sense of things. I mean, you got to kind of scratch your head on what's possible, because I mean, hell, if Luke can, how do I put this? If Yoda can come back as a Force ghost and walk around and catch a tree on fire, or just by willing it to happen, what's to say Luke can't, stretch his presence across the galaxy? You know what I mean? It's kind of like if and at that point. What's possible is whatever really they want to write into the script. That's what's possible.
Yeah.
You can't say what's not possible. I mean, you can. I mean, obviously, if somebody breaks out a Mark II Desert Eagle in the middle of a Star Wars movie, then yeah, that doesn't happen. But as far as can he do it? Yeah, why not? I mean, hell, it's the best scene in the entire fucking movie. So yeah, please, by all means, project yourself all the way across the galaxy. Who cares?
Yeah. I mean, what I just didn't understand, Bo, is like I thought they were gonna try to establish like a relationship between Finn and Rey, but then in the second movie, The Last Jedi, they completely went away from that. And
yeah, I agree with that. I also don't understand how in The Force Awakens, like we see flashbacks that say that Kylo was trained personally by Luke for X amount of years, at least till he was, I would say he's about in his 20s in the beginning of The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So I would have to assume that he trained him till he was at least 16, 17.
Yeah.
But even if I'm wrong, he trained him for at least 10 years. And yet, Rey, who has just realized she's Force sensitive, picks up the lightsaber from the first time and completely whoops his ass.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. That was.
And then also they hinted that Finn is Force sensitive, but that never goes anywhere either.
Yeah, because I mean, in the last movie, The Rise of Skywalker, he's trying to tell Rey something. Like, I want to let you. I hate Rey. I want to let you know, but there was always certain moments where they get cut off or some shit like that, and you're just like,
I think he was trying to tell her that he loves her. Kind of
that's what I thought too. But apparently, according to the producers or whatever, that wasn't the case. Apparently, he was going to try to tell her that, hey, I'm one with the Force as well. I know what you are feeling, because I feel this. I feel the same energy. But it's just like, bro.
But you never. The other thing that bothered me was her picking up the name Skywalker. She's not a Skywalker.
No, that was dumb. That was really dumb.
In all honesty, I think it would have been a lot better for her to keep the name Palpatine, because from a story perspective and from just an ironic perspective, wouldn't that be the biggest kill? You worked literally for 1,000 years. This Sith plan has been in motion. You executed it perfectly. You ruled the galaxy, had the strongest apprentice of any Sith. You get defeated by your apprentice. You come back to life because you figured out something no other Sith has. You cloned a Force-sensitive, or rather, a clone that has the potential to produce a Force-sensitive. It finally happens. You're 1 in a million chance. And the person who ends it all, who destroys the Lord of the Sith for good, the actual chosen one, was your own damn granddaughter. A Palpatine was the chosen one all this time. He chose. It'd be a good kind of like Star Wars versus Harry Potter reference. Like, he marked him as his equal, and then all that bullshit. You know, kind of like you literally set the plan for your own demise.
Yeah,
that's, it would have been cool to have a Palpatine be able to, carry on the Star Wars from that, and then not have because in all honesty, in my opinion, I am really kind of sick of the whole Skywalker saga shit. Yeah, I mean, we done had almost 6 movies, 9 TV shows, all centered around basically the Star Wars, what is classified as
nine total movies centered around the Skywalker saga, and then the book of Boba Fett, and then of course Mandalorian, because Luke appears in the end of season 2 of the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Ahsoka, obviously, because we figure out that Ahsoka's been hanging around with Luke.
Yeah. You also got all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
You got the Bad Batch, because they have to deal with Rex, and that's in the timeline of the Skywalker saga. Then you got the Kenobi show, which definitely qualifies.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the only one you could say is stand out as a not technically tied into. I mean, it takes place within the timeline, but it's not directly connected to either Anakin or Darth Vader. Is Andor. That's the only one.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't.
And Resistance, but we don't count Resistance.
No, I didn't even watch Resistance.
I didn't watch it because the animation is so terrible. I don't even want to even go there. It looks like somebody created it in Microsoft Paint.
Jesus.
I was kind of thrown off when they went from, Star Wars Clone Wars to Rebels. I actually didn't watch Rebels for a while because animation was such a drastic difference.
Yeah, because Disney XD had the rights to Star Wars at the time. So
Yeah, I'll be right back.
yeah, go ahead.
You can probably still hear me. I just need to get a drink.
No, go ahead, bro. Gotta stay hydrated.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But everyone, real quick, thank you for everyone that's tuning in to the live broadcasts. We're getting heart and heavy into this to the matter right now. We got a lot more to go though.
Oh, that's an understatement. But I'll say, from here, we just go in order. I mean, I got the whole. We'll go in order with the movies, and then. So I mean, if you go by the actual canon timeline after the Afterlife, the first movie.
Did you like Andor, Bo?
Yes and no. It took me a while to get into Andor. Now, I gave it a chance because I love Cassian and Rogue One. Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. I love Rogue One. Rogue
One was great. We're gonna dive heavy into Rogue One. There was a lot of great scenes and great parts I loved in that movie.
I just love this so much because it proved that you didn't need an awesome lightsaber duel to have a great Star Wars movie.
Oh.
Like, I'm pretty sure the only time we ever see a lightsaber in that whole movie is when Darth Vader is attacking the ship.
Yeah. That's the only time.
Which there's a fan version on YouTube. I employ everyone that's in here listening to go watch it. If you're a Star Wars fan, about how the duel between Obi-Wan and Vader should have went in episode 4.
Oh, I've seen that. That video has over like 60 million views, and I think it's continuing to grow.
It's epic. It honestly, if it would have been like that back then,
yeah,
I think episode 4 would be higher up on my Star Wars list.
Well, the problem was we didn't understand the significance of some of the majority of the characters at the time. Not until the prequels came out years later, and then you can.
But still, you kind of gotta, just to.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand they were working with what they had to work with back then. I mean, this was 1970 for God's sakes.
77, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you kind of got to work with what you got, and then also on top of that, they did have some of the best special effects of their time. So that is.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you know this. I mean, when George Lucas released the first movie, New Hope, he honestly thought that it was going to be horrible. Like nobody would like it.
A lot of people said they were going to be horrible.
Yeah, and then Lord and behold, it winds up becoming one of the best cinemas of all time.
But you got to think about it. That's almost with everything that gets pitched. I mean, hell, if you look back to I'm going to just name some off the top of my head because I know about them so much. When X-Men was first pitched, the X-Men animated series, when that was first pitched, every network hated it, including Power Rangers was another one. Every network hated the idea of Power Rangers. And then,
that's a shock.
Here we are 30 years later, and they're still making the same show.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't even know will Power Rangers ever die?
but that's the thing. You look at a concept like George Lucas. I'm comparing two very different things, but I'm talking about a series that literally is guys in spandex punching rubber-suited monsters, and this has lasted for 30 freaking years. Then you take a concept like George Lucas has, and everybody hated it, or everybody that it wasn't gonna amount to nothing. And then here we are, almost 60 years later?
Yeah.
50? Yeah, 60 years later. And it's one of the biggest franchises of all time. The fan base is literally everywhere. You can walk on the street and ask somebody, and you can walk up to somebody on the street and say, "Luke, I am your father," and they'll know exactly who you're talking about. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, you could I could ask a 7-year-old who is Darth Vader, and they'll be able to tell me Anakin Skywalker.
Probably one of the best villains ever created. 100%.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a great character. He has a good backstory. His fall to the dark side is very more explained if you watch the Clone Wars series versus just watching the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. But, even if you just saw the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, you kind of get the overall gist of it. But let's get into the Phantom Menace. I would say the Phantom Menace for me is probably the Phantom Menace, in my opinion, is ranked a lot higher than most people in the fan base would give it credit for.
It's in my top 4.
I honestly didn't think it was bad at all. I really did enjoy it.
You know why most people said it was bad? It's just because they didn't like Jar Jar Binks. They thought he was the most annoying character ever created. That's why a lot of people didn't like. But honestly, he fits into the story well. And look, he becomes a member of the Senate, the Galactic Senate. Like, come on.
Yeah, and then he's also the reason why the purge happened. He's a Sith. Didn't you know that?
Oh, come on. You don't believe those theories, huh?
No, I don't believe that. But however, I do believe that he is, without him being there, if they would have just left his ass on Naboo and never took him along for the ride, that it probably wouldn't be a theory at all, because he was the one that got that grant that said that they should grant Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers so the clone army would be created, which served the Republic in the first place.
Yeah.
Now, do I believe that he's some super intelligent dark Sith Lord? Absolutely fucking not. But
Agreed.
still, but the guy that played Jar Jar, I don't know his name, but he received death threats for that role. Can you believe that? Like,
why?
Like,
what the
that's
fuck?
What I'm saying. Like, it wasn't his fault. The character, and then look, everybody loved him in The Mandalorian season 3 when he became a Jedi and rescued Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Grogu. Everybody loved his ass.
Yeah, he got a good redemption arc.
Yeah, absolutely. From annoying, floppy-eared dimwit to badass Jedi Knight, that's a pretty good redemption arc.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. I love seeing the different perspectives of Order 66 that we've seen throughout the TV shows and in the movies, of course.
They got a good video on YouTube that has all Order 66 death scenes that we have seen on screen, whether it be TV shows, movies, or video games.
Yeah.
I implore you to check out that video one day when you're not doing anything. It's very good. They got to put it together. Did a great job clipping all that. Everything flows. And it also shows all the survivors of Order 66 as well. So that's also a good thing.
Yeah, I think only like anywhere between 30 to 40 Jedi survived the purge.
I don't know, because from all the content we have gotten so far, like originally, let's go back to when Revenge of the Sith came out.
2005.
There was only 2 that we knew about that survived. 2 Jedi.
Yeah.
Which was obviously Yoda and Obi-Wan.
Correct.
Now you got Cal Kestis from the Fallen Order video games. You got Seer Junda from the Fallen Order video games. You got Eno Cordova from Jedi Survivor. You got Bunta, whatever the hell his name is. He was a Jedi turned evil. He was turned dark. He worked for the ISS in Jedi Survivor.
Okay.
You have let's see. You have Kanan Jarrus, which is Caleb Doom.
Right.
From
learned
Bad Batch, from the first episode of the Bad Batch.
We learned that because in Rebels, he talked about what happened with him and his master.
And then you have Ahsoka, who technically wasn't a Jedi at the time, but still technically a Jedi. I don't know. She's kind of flirting on the edge. But then let's see who else you got.
Technically, that's what I wondered. Like, she was obviously in season 7, but she wasn't part of the Jedi Order anymore. She left, but the clones still attacked her, though.
I think it was not necessarily. I think Order 66 was not exactly to kill just Jedi. I think it was anybody that was Jedi sympathizers or posed a threat to Palpatine, because they also tried to kill Maul. Maul wasn't a Jedi, but Maul posed a threat to Sidious. So why not kill two birds with one stone?
Right. Because I was wondering, like in the Tales of the Empire, Barriss was spared. Well, probably because she wasn't seen as a threat, so maybe that's probably maybe why.
Maul was going to be a threat no matter what. Maul was going to either get away from his master and try to plot against him and try to train to apprentice. He knew too goddamn much at the time of his capture.
He almost spoiled the plan. He almost spoiled the whole plan. He knew it was going to happen.
I wish he would. Well, he didn't know exactly what was going to happen. He was never let in on the full plan. He just got a vision that said that told him to kill Anakin because because why. But Ahsoka ended up going to the plane instead of Anakin, so it was for naught.
Yeah. I did love how the last few episodes of season 7 of Clone Wars was tying into the Revenge of the Sith. I just thought that was so cool because we know what happens, we know how things play out, and you're just like, damn, this one little thing happened. If Ahsoka would have had the opportunity to talk to Anakin then and there, it may have changed things. It may could have changed things.
You know something I find interesting, and I know a lot of fans picked up on this when they first came out. Going back to the Phantom Menace, I don't even know if he was a character yet, like a predominant character when this movie came out. But there is a scene where Jar Jar is Jar Jar and is about to get beat to a pulp by the Doug Sabova.
Oh yeah, on Tatooine.
And you can see Quinlan Voss sitting in the background.
You can see what sitting in the background?
Quinlan Voss, the Jedi from the Clone Wars that goes with Kenobi to capture Cad Bane. Crazy dreadlock looking dude, jungle guy.
Okay.
Like a yellow stripe right here on his face.
Okay, I got you. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, if you watch that scene, you can see him in the background.
Wow.
He was, and the canon explanation for it is that he was on another mission, but couldn't blow his cover. He was on an undercover mission. So he knew who Qui-Gon was, but he couldn't say he knew who Qui-Gon was.
Yeah. That was
because they definitely saw each other.
Right. That was one of the best scenes. Watching the pod racing, which was really cool. We got to see the Jawas, which the Jawas had a really great famous line right when Anakin gets over the ridge. It's so funny to this day. Woody.
You get to see it was a great, start. I mean, Anakin's child actor could have been a little bit better. He could have read his lines a little bit better.
Apparently, the child that played Anakin in the movie, apparently he was made fun of a lot. Like
he was. He was criticized bad for that role because, honestly, child actors are not all that great anyway. You know, you're never gonna have a real good child actor because they don't know whether or not to take their lines seriously at a very young age.
Yeah.
So
Some child actors can do it, and some can't. You know, it's just the luck of the draw.
I want to say Anakin's actor was like 8 or 9 when he actually did the Phantom Menace.
Okay. It's actually the 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace. It's been out for 25 years. You believe that?
Yeah, yeah, I can believe it. I mean, it was a good movie.
And
now,
then
it set up the whole premise of, you know, you got to see Maul, how much of a badass he was, and of course to be reckoned with. No. You finally get to see, you know, Palpatine, and kind of, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know why nobody could ever tell who he, because there's a couple people that see him as the Sith Lord and not as the Sith Lord. I don't know how you can tell by that ugly ass chin that they're the same person, but whatever.
No, I don't really. That's the thing I really don't understand is how none of the Jedi from the Order were able to figure out like who he actually was. Because I seriously doubt that Palpatine was that capable of being able to hide who he truly was that well. There had to at least be some.
There was. See, that could be explained by the Jedi's one weakness. See, the dark side. The closer the dark side is to the Jedi, the more it clouds their judgment. Now, Palpatine was doing his Sith stuff in the shadows during the Phantom Menace. However, when he became Chancellor, he got to go to Coruscant, where literally, if you look at a map of Coruscant or look at just the visuals of Coruscant from a wide angle on the big screen, like we've seen so far, the Jedi Temple and the Congress building where Palpatine actually resides most of the time are not that far apart from each other. So, if the dark side of the Force, the closer a dark side being is to a Jedi, that clouds their judgment.
Okay.
Then giving him becoming Chancellor puts him literally right into their home. So you have the most potent dark side energy radiating from underneath your roof, hypothetically.
Right.
Well, not hypothetically, actually, honestly. You got it. It's right there. It's in your backyard. You can see it from your bedroom window. But you don't know where it's coming from because it's not like a GPS tracker. You can't pinpoint its location. You just feel it all around you. So you know it's there. You just can't figure out where it's coming from.
Right.
And the closer it is, the more the visions get distorted. That's why in Attack of the Clones, Anakin has the vision of his mother being killed by the Tusken Raiders.
Mm.
But it wasn't really a vision. He couldn't see it very clearly. And the audience didn't see it either. Because it was an interpretation that he couldn't see it clearly. However, and that's because Palpatine was not on the planet. He wasn't on Naboo, so he couldn't manipulate it as much as he could, say, in Revenge of the Sith when he sees Padme dying. He could manipulate that dream way easier because they were on the same planet and so close to each other.
Right. That makes sense.
And on top of that, a lot of Jedi, especially the ones that were on the council, a good chunk of them didn't believe that the Sith were even back.
Right.
You know, for a long period of time, they believed that it was just, they didn't believe Dooku was a Sith Lord until he started showing a red lightsaber in the gladiatorial arena on Geonosis. So, I mean, And Yoda was the one that confirmed it with the council. If Yoda wouldn't have been there, they probably wouldn't have believed Anakin or Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to Phantom Menace, I think what really helped the movie is because, like you said, the Jedi haven't experienced Sith for over 1,000 years. So when they first left Tatooine and Maul caught up to them, they left. Qui-Gon tried to warn them, like, "Hey, I do believe that the Sith had returned. I've encountered one." But of course, as we saw in Tales of the Jedi, nobody really believed Qui-Gon because they, like you said, one hasn't appeared in over 1,000 years. So how are we to take what you say as true? So but Dooku was the only one that believed him because obviously Dooku trained him or was his mentor, his master. So Dooku was going to believe him no matter what.
Well, actually, at that point in time, not to cut you off, but at that point in time when Maul first encountered Qui-Gon, Dooku was already in league with Palpatine. He wasn't being trained, and he didn't know that he was a Sith, but he was being manipulated by Palpatine at that time.
Yeah.
And then when Qui-Gon died, he left the Order.
Yeah, that's what set him over the edge because Dooku believed that, if the council would have taken seriously what Qui-Gon said, then they could have done something about it, and probably
They would have sent more Jedi or more experienced Jedi.
Yeah, and Qui-Gon was no pushover. Qui-Gon was really good. He was really good with the Force, really good with the lightsaber. It's just the fact that he wasn't prepared. He wasn't prepared for how Maul was going to fight because Maul doesn't fight fair. Maul fights cheaply when he wants to.
Maul's fighting style is what's it called? Terracotta. And Terracotta is an art form that basically preys on the open spaces from a Jedi that practices Form 3 or Form 4, which was bad for Qui-Gon because he was an adept user of Form 4. If I'm wrong on that, please let me know. I'm pretty positive I could have him confused with Obi-Wan. Anybody that's listening, please let me know.
Gotcha. I think you're right, though.
But still, Terracotta was a very potent fighting style. Mace Windu actually used a form of Terracotta in some of his lightsaber forms. So did Kit Fisto, because Terracotta was a form that was good to use when dealing with dual blades.
Yeah.
And I forget what episode of the Clone Wars it's in, but it's in season 1. They go to General Grievous's lair, and he fends off Grievous with his lightsaber and his dead Padawan's lightsaber.
Yeah, that was a very interesting episode. I tell you what, that was being aired on Cartoon Network at the time, and I gotta tell you, it was pretty dark for a kids show, but I loved it.
Oh yeah, it was very dark for a kids show, but it had a lot of depth involved for sure. But it was definitely a good series.
No, it was fantastic. I mean, because the Clone Wars shows you what happens between episode 2 and episode 3, and we also got introduced to Ahsoka and learned that Anakin had a Padawan. But we never would have figured out that Anakin had a Padawan.
Coming off of so going off of the Phantom Menace, go to Attack of the Clones. Or rather, we talked about Tales of the Jedi, but we go to Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones for me is probably within my top 5. It was a very good, well written.
I have it at 5.
For me, it was a very good, well written Star Wars movie. It had a lot of good aspects. The clone, for me, I love the Clone Wars era. Anytime I'm playing video games or anything like that, I love when I see a battle droid or something like that. Anything from the Clone Wars era is awesome.
I can definitely say that 85% of the Star Wars fan base, their favorite era of the Star Wars universe is probably the Clone Wars era. And like, how can you not, man? I mean, you learn and get to see all this different kind of clone armor, how many different units they had, how many divisions they had, and then you just learn. I mean, you got to see all the cool outfits, or wherever planet they changed the terrain. Like it was awesome. It was really awesome. And then you got to see a more human side from the clones, not just from the when we only got to see them a little bit in the movies where they were just an army, but from the Clone Wars show you got to see the more human aspect of them. Like they were just actual people, just trying to serve and help the Jedi any way they could.
Which made the betrayal that we all knew that was coming even more heartbreaking.
Yeah, it made it even harder. But real quick, but I do want to say the Phantom Menace, Phantom Menace introduced probably one of the best fights in Star Wars history, because that was prior to that, the only good Star Wars fight you saw was with Luke and Darth Vader at Return of the Jedi. We never really had anything else prior to that. But when you had Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan face off against Maul, and then Maul showed off his dual blade, it was the best shit ever. It was fantastic. It was what the fans hoped for.
I will say this, and I actually do agree with this one point a guy made to me a while back when I used to work with him, and I talked to him about this stuff all the time. But anyway, going back to what I said earlier, I take it back about the fight scenes and the lightsaber fight scenes in the sequel trilogy not being as complex as the prequel trilogy, because that can actually be explained very easily, and I just remembered why. During the Phantom Menace, the Order had pretty much had. So if you watch the Acolyte season 1, that's 100 years before the Phantom Menace.
Right.
The fight choreography is awesome because all the Jedi were trained properly. All the way up to Revenge of the Sith, all the Jedi were trained properly. So all of them could do that very acrobatic form of combat. Now you get into Episode 4, A New Hope. This is almost 20 years after the Empire has been in power. Luke was only trained by Obi-Wan in lightsaber combat or he trained by himself really in lightsaber combat. On top of that, Obi-Wan's been out of practice. He hasn't fought anybody with a lightsaber since he killed Maul in the desert 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So now he's older now, and it's just kind of out of perspective. Then you look at like A Force Awakens. You're talking about over 50 years of no Jedi Order. So it's fighting lightsaber on lightsaber combat hasn't been around for 50 years.
Well,
you're not really
somewhat of an order. Luke tried to bring the Order back, but we saw that didn't work out very well.
Well, I know, but you don't see. If you don't get the proper training with a lightsaber, you're kind of just at the will of the Force to tell you when to block and when to counter. Right. Which is why the lightsaber combat is not as adapted as what it was in the prequel trilogy.
Yeah. But yeah. And not to mention, the Phantom Menace produced one of the best soundtracks in the Star Wars universe. One of my favorite soundtracks.
Yeah, it did. I mean, overall, I view the Phantom Menace as like, out of all the Star Wars content, I would say for me it's ranked about, I'd say about eighth.
Eighth.
Yeah, about eighth.
Yeah, I would definitely rank Phantom Menace in my top 5. I would have it at number 4, and then
I think I have a Star Wars list in my notes actually. Now I think about
you
it.
do.
Let's see.
Attack of the Clones I actually have at number 5, mainly because I like the ending of the movie where they're on Geonosis and all the Jedi come and save or try to save Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if a lot of fans know this, but they lost a lot of Jedi in that on Geonosis. They lost a lot.
Yeah, they did. They did. I mean, I want to say the most known running is that at the time of Order 66, there was roughly 10,000 Jedi in the Order.
Mm-hmm.
And then after all from the ones we know that survived Order 66, I think as of right now, the count sits at about 100.
100 Jedi survived?
Yeah, like I'm talking about the initial Order 66.
Okay.
Because like in the comics, there's a couple names on that the Inquisitorius are hunting. So, like Jocasta Noosh, the librarian, she survived, but she was later killed by Darth Vader. There's the Jedi that's at the beginning of the Kenobi movie. He obviously survived. I mean, the Kenobi series. He obviously survived, but he was later killed too. So, the ones that survived the initial Order 66 order. So it's somewhere at about 100. And then even in the Kenobi series, when he discovers the hidden path, he's about to board the ship. I mean, there are at least 30 lightsabers sitting right there and names of Jedi carved into the rocks in the back.
And you learned that I can't remember his name, but it was the Jedi that Obi-Wan went with to help track down Zero the Hutt. You found out that he survived as well.
That's Quinlan Voss.
Oh, that's Quinlan Voss? Okay.
Yeah, that's Quinlan.
Yeah,
that's the guy that's in the Phantom Menace with the yellow stripe.
Yeah, you found out that he survived from the show, which was a pretty cool feat.
He actually fans always speculated that he had survived because there is a comic with him running through the jungles. He was on. So there was actually 3 Jedi on Kashyyyk at the time of Order 66.
Yoda, Luminara,
and Quinlan. He was on Kashyyyk as well.
Okay, I didn't know he was on Kashyyyk with them.
Yeah, he was on Kashyyyk, and he survived by living off the land, and he escaped into the Badlands of Kashyyyk, which is basically like the Dark Lands or whatever, and basically lived off the land on Kashyyyk for a year. Then got off world somehow. We don't exactly know how he got off world, but he did. So that's how he survived. There was actually a deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith of him riding in one of the big old tank, not the crawler tanks, the roller tanks. He was sitting in the front of it, and they shot it, blew up the one that he was riding in. But that never got aired. So that's just a little bit of history that
I did watch all the deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith. God damn, I gotta say, George Lucas does not like Shaak Ti.
Yeah, Shaak Ti in grand total of Star Wars as a whole, combining Legends and canon, Shaak Ti has died 3 different ways.
That's crazy.
But the actual canon of Shaak Ti dying is Anakin impaled her while she was meditating. That's how she actually died.
Yeah, that's what I found out too.
But there's a scene that Grievous kills her.
Yeah.
While she's defending the Chancellor, and then if you ever played the Force Unleashed video game, that actually, in my opinion, introduced one of the most OP characters ever to exist in Star Wars. you kill Shakti in that video game as well.
Yeah, voice.
He's actually in canon, to be honest. If you watch Screen Crush and go and watch all the Easter eggs, because what they'll do, Screen Crush got guys that will translate all the Arabic, the Star Wars language.
Mm.
And in one of the Kenobi episodes, when he's about to board the ship and he sees all the lightsabers and the names behind it, you can actually see the names Galen Merrick, who is Starkiller from the Force Unleashed, and Rom Koda, who is also Starkiller's master in the Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
So both of those characters are now canon. I just don't think Merrick's as OP as he was in the Force Unleashed.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll in Force Unleashed he's voiced and played by Sam Wither. Really, he's a really good character in Star Wars. Also voiced Maul in the Clone Wars series and in Rebels. And
I don't think he will ever. If Galen Merrick does come back to Star Wars as a Jedi, he will not be as powerful as he was.
Yeah.
And,
well,
I mean, yeah, you're talking about Luke, who was supposedly the last hope, had trouble lifting an X-wing out of a swamp. This guy took down a Star Destroyer out the fucking sky with nothing but the Force.
That was a fun mission.
That's it. You know, you're talking about somebody who literally every encounter you have whooped Darth Vader's ass to the point where half his armor was off.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a really powerful character. The thing is, though, will they ever bring him to the big screen or live action?
I think he would be a good character to explore, honestly, and give him a role and give Coda. I honestly think we would see, if there was any place we would see him, it would be in the Kenobi series somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Kenobi reconnected with Quinlan, and you might see him somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Or at least see Rom Coda. Because I want them to do a spinoff with Saw Gerrera and have a spinoff series exploring Saw Gerrera and his partisans, because Rom Coda was actually a part of Saw Gerrera's partisans at one point in time.
I know, bro. Isn't this so beautiful? Like, there's so many different stories they could tell with Star Wars, because it's such a big galaxy, and there's so much shit you can dive into. It's incredible.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. You know, that's why the Acolyte I view is so important, and it's important to the fan base too, because you're talking about 100 years before the first movie in the timeline,
right?
Which is the Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace. Up until this point, we've had the Phantom Menace to the Rise of Skywalker, which in the grand scheme of things, that only covers maybe 80 to 90 years.
Yeah.
Let me see how much it actually spanned before I say that.
Yeah,
I can look,
because
I can look it up
we did know that The Force Awakens is 30 years after Return of the Jedi.
So this guy got the BBY count that's on. So BBY is before the Battle of Yavin, and then BBY is after the Battle of Yavin. So before the first Death Star was destroyed, and after the first Death Star was destroyed. So you can do the timeline like that. Let me see. Where is... Alright, so this is the Yes, right here. The Phantom Menace took place in. The Phantom Menace took place in 32 BBY. So then the Death Star explosion was 32 years later when they destroyed the first Death Star. That was 32 years after. 32 years later, and then let's tack on. Let's see, get to about right here. This was 35 years after. So in total, 67 years. So
wow.
From the Phantom Menace to the rise of Skywalker stretches 67 years, and the entirety of the Star Wars canon timeline. So what we have right now in 2024, there is, let's see, the beginning of it is 26,000. There's 20. Let me see. I'm trying to pick my words wisely. Let's see. Let's see when it starts. Right here. So actually, it'd be 47. So let's see, 40. Let's say 47. 170. So in the actual timeline, the entire canon timeline, we've only explored 67 years out of a potential 47,103.
Shit.
That's how fast. Now, that's just in movies and TV shows, not including The Acolyte. This is all the movies and TV shows we have up to this point have been in a span of 67 years. The Acolyte is the first TV show to go outside the 67-year gap. Now, there are a few comic books and comics and books that have discussed
Yeah. Apparently, the Skywalker saga is the most important.
The ending is always important, but your beginning is pretty important too. Because, like, you got the Mandalorian Force. You got in all honesty, I forget the name of the video game. I want to say it's Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yes.
It has some of the best cutscenes of the Sith and Jedi Wars.
I've seen all of them. They are fucking phenomenal.
Their lightsaber fights are ridiculous.
Yeah.
I wish we would have a series following a Jedi from that time period.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did that one day. I would not be surprised.
The Darth Revan, Darth Bane, Darth Malik. See all of them. sole survivor and have it end with him creating the rule of two, watching him go up through the ranks of the Sith.
I actually never played those video games, but I heard they were fire.
I've played them. They are dope. Anybody who hasn't played them, I enjoyed it. The games themselves are average, but the cutscenes and the fight scenes are phenomenal. I mean, the backstory of watching you gotta watch like this mini short before you actually play the game, and watching the mini shorts are, I mean, the lightsaber combat is ridiculous.
Now I've seen all the cutscenes from the Old Republic, and they're pretty good. The storytelling could just they can go so far with that. But
oh yeah, I mean, like I said, you got 47,000 plus years to work with in the actual timeline of this series from start to end.
Question is, are they going to be willing to want to do it live action, or are they going to do an animation out of it? That's the question.
I honestly prefer them doing animation, because up until the time of that Star Wars Clone Wars aired on Cartoon Network, we had only seen about a total of 9 planets in the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew and heard about so many others. Just I feel with a cartoon or animated series, you can explore so many other planets, and without having elaborate sets and CGI and special effects and all that other crap.
Right.
You can just computer generate it and have as long as the storyline's something that the fan base can get into. I mean, your limits are pretty much limitless. Like, one of the biggest things I wish they would explore is the war with the Nile. The war with the Nile lasted almost 100 years, and it was the most crippling war that the Jedi had ever had up to that point.
Yeah.
And that ended literally about 50 years before the Acolyte started. So you're talking about a raid, and you actually, if you play the Jedi Survivor video game, which is the sequel to Fallen Order, you actually see the Nile invading the planet. I think it's Tantus or whatever the planet is we're trying to find in that game. But you actually see them invading from the unknown regions, and the Jedi are like, we gotta get off this planet.
Yeah.
And they were bad. I mean, they had the Eaters of the Force at their side that would devour literally suck the life out of Jedi and leave them as just an ashy husk. And I mean, it killed so many Jedi. You had what was the other one? The Varrock or the Vanguard or whatever it was, some kind of giant carnivorous force plant.
Mm.
I mean, there's just so much shit you can bring to life from this universe that has unimaginable, untapped potential, and I think that's what the Star Wars fan base is trying to, get through to Disney, is that literally you've been handed something where you can churn out good shows for the next 80 to 100 years if you wanted to. There is no limit to the content you could create based on this universe. They gave you a 47,000 year play area. They've only done 67 of 47,000 years.
Yeah.
That's a big gap you can play with. And plus Legends, you bring somebody from Legends and make them canon. I mean, hell, Mace Windu is begging Disney to bring back his character. He
Oh, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes, he's begging them to bring him back.
I imagine so, because he sees how popular Star Wars has become. He wants to be part of the universe.
He actually wanted to pay Disney to make it serious.
I mean, I don't see how they could bring his character back. I mean, unless if they do something in the past, or if it's supposedly Mace Windu isn't dead.
All the speculation has been that Mace Windu wasn't dead because technically, you never actually see him die.
I mean,
he got hit by force lightning and throwing off a building. Yes, he did. However, Luke was hit by force lightning and still lived, and we have seen Anakin and Ahsoka jump from way higher and survive.
I know, but I mean, Luke didn't fall off from a very high place. He just
And I'll reiterate again. Sidious was thrown down a reactor shaft and he came back to life. So what's that?
well, honestly, Bo, Disney probably just did that so they can come up with a way to how are they going to do the Rise of Skywalker.
I'm just saying, he was thrown down a reactor shaft, and hell, if you watch the Robot Chicken version of it, he's still falling to this day.
Honestly, they probably just brought back Palpatine's character just so they could have a movie, or just so they could have a ninth movie, because they needed a story, they needed a plot line.
And you know what? I'm fine with it. I mean, I like that he went through the cloning and all that crap and blah 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 blah. However, bringing Mace Windu's character back would be awesome. I would love to see him.
I think every Star Wars fan would shit themselves if he came back. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Well, look, man, we're going to have to pick up on this another time. I got work in the morning. I got to go to bed. But, guys, everybody, it was very nice talking with y'all.
Hold on. Let me point you to the camera.
All right, guys. It was very nice chatting with y'all. I'll be back whenever Lando's free again to do this again, and we'll pick back up on Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. I'm about to say you got to come check out the new crib, man. It's awesome, bro.
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely do that.
Would you like to do this like same time next week on Wednesday, or would you?
That's fine. We can do that.
Yeah. But before you go, Bo, I have one question. Do you honestly think that Mace Windu could have survived that?
Yes.
Think it's possible?
Yes. And the reason I say why is because there is a reason. Look at like General Grievous in the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Never once does he ever face off against Mace. And the reason for that is because George Lucas has said it himself. If Grievous would have faced Mace Windu would have wrecked him.
Oh, absolutely.
Mace was the third most powerful Jedi in the Order.
Mm.
In all honesty, he was probably one of the most powerful Jedi in the Order.
I mean, he almost beat Palpatine if Anakin hadn't intervened.
Well, I actually think if he would have faced Anakin one-on-one in combat, he would have whooped Anakin's ass.
I believe it. No, I believe it. And I did. And what I heard from somebody, I think what I've heard from somebody, a fan said that if Mace said that he highly respected Obi-Wan, but apparently Mace said if he ever had to fight Obi-Wan, he said it'd be very difficult for him because he said Obi-Wan was probably the best fighter in the Order.
Well, Obi-Wan travels Form 4, and Form 4 is one of the best defensive lightsaber styles to use against Form 7, which is what Mace Windu actually, that was his form. And it basically, Form 4 was basically blocking most of the time. But you could block almost any attack. And that's why it was that's why it was a standoff, basically, in Revenge of the Sith. Because Anakin was trained by Obi-Wan, so he became a master of Form 4. And then you had Obi-Wan, who was already a master of Form 4. So you have both parties mastering the best defensive form in the Jedi Order.
Okay.
So that's why it was a constant blocking and all that shit.
Yeah.
All right, man. I gotta go.
I got you, but I don't want to keep you up too late. But no, Bo, this was awesome. I really enjoyed this, bro.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
I'm gonna watch the Acolyte series myself. I'm gonna give it a go, and then we talk about it next week.
Yeah, at least watch it. By Wednesday of next week, episode 4 will be out. It comes out every Tuesday. So just watch up to episode 4. At least watch the series just to give at least your feedback on it.
Okay.
And see what you think. Go into it with an open mind. Just go off of base what you know on Star Wars. Don't listen to all the other bullshit.
Yeah, I try not to. Yeah.
All right, buddy.
All right, Bo. Have a good night. Be safe, bro. Later. All right, y'all. That was the end of our special little stream tonight. We got allotted to the Star Wars lore. I appreciate everybody that watched tonight or watches the rebroadcast. I'm gonna have a better setup for next time. Like I said, this was kind of last minute. I do apologize for that. But hey, we're gonna have a better setup next time. Bo will probably be here live and in person. I'm gonna try to get him to come over here live and in person, and we can do it together. And we may have a couple more people with us, so I hope y'all can tune into it. Probably gonna do it next week at the same time, probably a little later, maybe around 9 o'clock or so. But no, I appreciate everybody tuning into it, and I hope y'all have a good one, y'all. Y'all be good. Oh, anything Star Wars questions, any opinions you have on it, leave it down in the comments below, and make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.